Hey everybody, welcome back to Speaking of Schmoedown. I am your host, Double D Dan Dolinsky. Generally is MIA, so is Frenchie. So I'm kind of pulling triple duty today as the numbers guy, the host, and the producer. So yay me. But I can't do this by myself. I have Aaron with me. How you doing, man?
Good. Thank you once again for having me back, and I'm glad to be the moral support while you try and completely steer and operate this ship.
Yeah, I actually did this before, and I
Oh,
feel like Skeletor at the end of Masters of the Universe Revelation Part One, where I killed Adam, and now I have the sword, and I have the power of the sword, and I have the power now, and I'm Masters of the Universe now. So it'll be fun. I think we had a great lineup of matches this week. Thing is that we're not going to do hot matches like we usually do because it's just going to be me and Aaron, and it's going to be easier on me to just not do hot matches this week. And of course, we don't have any guests today, so it's just going to be us. So there's really no point in doing hot matches. So, but we are going to talk about the matches that happened, starting with Mike Kalinowski versus Janine the Machine. And I got to tell you, I did have Mike winning this one, but I wouldn't have been surprised that Janine would have won. I always said that she had the capability that she was going to win this match because she's been playing this good since it's the season. So I feel like she was going to win. There was a chance she was going to win, but I was still happy that she did win. I've never been more happy to be proven wrong. And honestly, with the Stars playing so bad, so poorly this year, it's nice to see them get a win. What do you think, Aaron?
yeah, absolutely. I'm someone where the few times I have spoken publicly about Schmoedown, I wouldn't say like harshly critical is the term, but my thing with Janine is because she seems like just such an incredibly nice person and the fans love her, so she is hyped to an extent where I think she is at times talked above where she is just for the moment. And you're right, this year especially, but over her entire time in the Schmoedown, you can see where she's getting better and better and better and better each and every time. The only thing she doesn't have is the wins and big moments. This was a big moment for her, and it was a win. Now, obviously, the wheel played a big part in helping with that, but also the strategy of making sure that your strengths are his weaknesses came into it. Clearly, I mean, we don't know, but I'm going to make a very positive assumption and say that was one of her strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she managed to steal 4 points from Mike, and obviously, it was definitely she was very confident. Like, we're going with classics, and you can tell right from that. It's like, okay, this match is over. I think Mike is in real trouble. But we have seen him pull some miracles, especially with in the teams division with Corruption versus Shazam, where they were 8 points behind and they managed to get back in. So
Yeah.
it's not impossible, but I've stated this before in previous episodes where uh, the farther you are, how did I phrase this? That if your opponent manages to grow their lead or catch up to you, then you're less likely to win that match. And obviously, even though Mike was ahead, he was only ahead by 1 point, and Janine just managed to uh, she managed to get 11 points in round two, and Mike was only able to get two. So when you're that far behind, 8 points behind, again 8 points, it becomes less likely you are able to win. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's less likely. But I am happy to see Janine take a win. I've actually given Roxy Strider the week off because I feel like they're still celebrating this win because they have had a poor season. I feel like they need this weekend just to celebrate it and just go out because there's really no chance of them actually winning the points race. So I'm like, you know what, Roxy, you go have this weekend. I know you needed this. I celebrate this win while you still can because honestly, we don't know if Janine can make it to the finals because her next opponent is Dan Murrow. And
Right.
Janine has played really well this season, but Dan Murrow has to play very poorly, in my opinion, has to for Janine to win. That's how I see it. But let's
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to Danger Zone versus the press room. Now, I did say that, hey, Dan Murrow had to play poorly, and you know what? He didn't play too bad. I mean, he only missed two questions, same as Ben. But in round one, it was very, very sad for me to see Perry to miss four questions in round one. And really, Josh Horowitz didn't miss as well. But in his first question, it was the first question, and he had the right title. He just had the words reversed. It was Alita Battle Angel. He said Battle Angel Alita. So
which
was going to say, not giving him the point. But
yeah, which to be fair to him, that is one of the easiest screw ups to make because the book is actually called Battle Angel Alita. So that's where that came from.
I learned something. You learn something new every day.
Yeah, I know this match. I think more than any match this season, this is the game that solidifies that Horowitz really does have something to bring to this. Because I'm going to be honest, I think Perry's a really solid player, and I think she obviously plays a lot better when she's in a team element. But Horowitz really carried this match. He missed the first question barely, and then went perfect for the rest of the game, including supporting Perry and trying to instill that confidence into her when she had lost it after round one.
Absolutely. So, I mean, but hey, in round two, she actually brought her A game because that's where she really shined. Because Josh, there were times where he blinked on certain questions, and it's like, I don't got this. But Perry was right there. In fact, there was one question where the answer was on the tip of her tongue, but she just couldn't get it out. She knew it, she just couldn't pull the answer. But once they went to the multiple choice, she got it immediately. So I feel like she is good. She just needs the right questions to get her to win a match.
Yeah, Perry to me is the definition of like what people talk about in like a B player, in that she is somebody who is obviously very knowledgeable in film and she is good at the game, but she doesn't necessarily have the desire or the passion behind like nailing every aspect of the game. And so taking someone like her, who is just a very good trivia player, who's very knowledgeable on a lot of aspects of film, and pairing her with someone like Horowitz, who really has taken to the game and excelled at it, I think is what makes them such a good team. Which is interesting that this is a team that beat the super team of sorts of the league in, two former singles champs and a former teams champ in Ben Bateman and Dan Murrow.
Yeah, but it was but yeah, this was still, I will say that my brackets are completely busted because now it's press room versus King Arthur. I did have these two win matches. I did not expect them to go to the final. So we're going to be seeing them very shortly, and we're going to see again Josh Horowitz and Griffey Nooms battle it out once again. And I think that King Arthur might actually end King Arthur's reign. I mean Josh Horowitz has been proving that he can do it, and I think Perry is just as good as King Khan. King Khan's a little bit better, but I know I'm retracting what I just said, but I feel like just something in my gut tells me I think Perry might actually win this. I may actually bring her A game in this one because it's the first time she's been in a finals ever. And so I feel like she's going to bring her A game in a couple of weeks. I think they're playing in a couple of weeks. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Oh, well, no, I was just saying I actually agree with you. I think the other thing that Press Room has going for them is they've played more matches. King Arthur has two really, really good players and two really good rookies. The one rough patch through both of their matches is the team chemistry aspect of it, where they're still kind of getting their grips on that. So I think that is the edge that Press Room has, is these are two people who not only know each other very well and are friends, but have just had more matches throughout the year to play together. So, I mean, both these teams have shown they're good enough that it is a coin flip at this point. Anyone could take it, but if I had to give an edge, Press Room.
Yeah, so and Logan makes a really good point here. Dan missing the 3-point would have changed things. And yeah, that's true. But obviously, as Ben Bateman said in the interview, you can't assign blame to either Dan or Ben, because had Ben made some more points in round one, it would have been a different story. Had Dan made more points in round one, it would have been a different story. So there's really no one person to blame. But had Dan made his 3-pointer, it would have been a different ball game, obviously. But let's move on to the third match of the week. Bibiani versus David Del Rio. And there's only one thing I can say about this match.
Holy shit! Holy shit!
I had to say it twice.
You had to say it twice.
Yeah, Bibiani went perfect the whole match. He only checked down the multiple choice once in round two. He got every single question, and we know that Bibbs can play big. And honestly, I think he can actually go to the finals based on this match. What do you think, Aaron?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bibiani is a player where he throughout his career has been consistent, and he has continued to improve over the years. Because like even if you look at his older performances, they were all consistent. He has just gotten better since then. So it's never truly about his quality. It's always about is who he's playing on it that day more than him. Today, unfortunately, Del Rio wasn't, but absolutely, I think Bibbs is probably, him and Dan are the two heavyweight favorites. And I don't remember what the actual shape of this thing is, but if they are on the same side with any chance to meet each other anywhere except the finals, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I do think that it's a possibility that Dan Murrow might face Bibiani, because his next opponent is Bibbs' opponent is the winner of Paige Forbetti and Griffey Nooms. I think it's Griffey Nooms going to win, and I think Bibbs is going to win that in either case. But then it's going to be Dan Murrow versus Janine, and then it's going to be Brendan Meyer versus Barbarian. And interestingly enough, I think we might actually see Brendan Meyer win that whole side of the bracket. So we might see Brendan Meyer and Bibbs face each other in the tournament finals. That would be interesting. Coy would pull a corruption from last season where he's like having a mojito with Hawaiian shirts. It's like, I'm just here supporting both my players. But there is one thing I do want to address. It's something that happened especially with the Bibbs and Del Rio match. And I will get to Del Rio in a minute because I think he played fantastic. But there is something I want to address. It was Bibbs' second round question. So let's just play the clip so everyone can know what we're talking about exactly. So,
what specific health ailment does John Coffey heal Melinda, the warden's wife, of in The Green Mile? Will you accept just cancer?
Guys, make an answer.
Cancer. A little more specific.
These more specific. Okay, multiple choice.
All right. Your 4 options for a point. A, a brain tumor, B, skin cancer, C, breast cancer, or D, lung disease.
Brain tumor.
William Bibiani checks the multiple choice to be safe, and it ends up paying off in the form of a...
All right, so that's the clip. So let me just get back to my... Okay. So initially, I don't have a problem with how it happened, but in my personal opinion, honestly, Leo says, I don't think a challenge would have gone to Del Rio's way. I do think that. I don't think that there was anything wrong with it. But my personal opinion is that if you are looking for a specific answer, the question did say we're looking for a specific ailment. But if you're saying, can you accept cancer, or you're looking for something even more specific, I think it's perfectly fine to ask that rather than just say cancer and then just say we need something a little bit more specific. I think asking that question, can you accept cancer as an answer, is perfectly fine. But obviously the question does say we're specific ailment. And right. So I feel like how it handled, where Christian said we need you to answer. Bibb said cancer. Mark had said we need something a little bit more specific. I feel like that would have happened either way had Bibbs just said cancer, and then Mark would have just said, we need something a little bit more specific. I think that would have happened a little bit longer rather than that quickly. But what do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, I just saw the comment that Dagan put in the chat there, and I think that's actually an interesting comparison of, because on Jeopardy, if you say something and it's like you're right there, but the answer itself is more specific, or somebody else could get it, then they ask you to go more specific. That is kind of how I read this. Again, the whole rules thing is very weird with the Schmoedown. What is a rule? What isn't a rule? We have a rule book, but then there's all sorts of other specific facets that I don't know if anyone could ever fully think of. But in this case, yeah, I don't think there is anything wrong with it, because in and of itself, cancer is an ailment that also has many specific subcategories. So you never quite sure what they're asking for. They could just be asking for cancer, or specifically they want to know about the brain tumor that is causing cancer. It's one or the other. And so asking, what do you need from me, like the specific thing or just cancer? Yeah, totally fair.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of reminded me of when Ross from Nowhere and Nikki Demolanta faced off against each other. They PJ said, we need a specific quote, and it was from Empire Strikes Back, and they were looking for a specific word, weapons. Right. They couldn't answer blasters and lightsaber. They couldn't answer that. They couldn't say that. We were looking for specific quote, which was weapons. However, Nikki said your weapons, and Ross said his weapons. So obviously that's a little bit same flavor from this, but obviously they both got the answer right, because they were looking for the specific word, weapons. So that's just my reminding of it. But yeah, I feel like, again, David Del Rio, he played phenomenal. I mean, I know his season's over, but I mean, he played really well. I mean, he's what, 3-0 this season? He played, I know he won in round one, or was it? No, it was 2-1. Oh, whatever. He played, I think he played.
Yeah, his record coming into the season was 1-3, I believe. Now he is 4-4.
Okay, so yeah, he won.
I believe.
Yeah, so he played really well in this tournament, and I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back for another season, because he's just so damn good. I want to see him more. I want to see more of him. It's like cowbell. I want more cowbell. Give me more cowbell.
No, absolutely. I think he's been a really good addition. I think a part of before, like, what always affected him is, obviously, as people may or may not know, he is a full-time working actor. So generally, when you're filming in the studio, he just can't commit because he probably has a job, and that may even take him out of state. But with the virtual ability of the Schmoedown now and being able to do this, it's allowed him to get into it a bit more over the last 2 years. And I think it's really helped him get a better feel for the game than he had before. Also, nobody should be shocked that Del Rio could hit that note. He was in Pitch Perfect, and that is a movie trivia question, so you guys should know that.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, turning this into a musical. I mean, is it strange for me that I do want now a match just to be a musical where they just break out in song and dance? I mean, I think that would be entertaining. No, wait, that could be the halftime at Spectacular. Just turn it into a song and dance routine. Why not? Call it halftime.
Because Broke is going to blow a kneecap or something if you try having him dance.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I know I suffer from that, because if I work myself too hard, my knee does get a little dislocated a little bit. So I try to avoid not doing too much. In fact, that's why I left one of my jobs, because it's like my knees can't take it. So we're going to move on to the pay-per-view, because this one, I love Star Wars, so I love seeing Star Wars matches. And once again, I have one thing to say about this.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I mean, I would say 3 times, but now I know how to control that dashboard. I mean, I had Gold Leader winning this match, but I knew Nikki was going to put up a fight. For Nikki to beat Gold Leader, I mean, props to Nikki Demolanta. I know some people are going to say, well, Andrew Demolanta was the champion, and he helped her. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? She's the one who committed to the time. She's the one who actually put in the work, and she was able to call out, and she competed. And honestly, I'm proud of it. In fact, I want to see more women like Nikki and Laura Kelly and Molly, because growing up, talking with girls, talking about Star Wars, they were completely repulsed by me. So for me, I've always associated Star Wars as a guy thing. In fact, I try to show my sisters Star Wars. They could not care less until one of my sisters started dating a Star Wars fan, and then she got into Star Wars for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, so it's nice to see women actually being in Star Wars and actually can compete in Star Wars and actually knows more about Star Wars than me. So I want to see more of that. Give me more of that. Take my money. Women, be a Star Wars fan. Compete in this league. I want to see it more.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I would say is to your point about the people bringing up Andrew and being like, oh, well, he was the champ and he's, they're together, obviously. But what I would say is she's the one who spent, having not been a Star Wars fan really prior to this, has spent the last 2 years of her life putting in the work to help him get as good as he is. And now just on the side, separately, she is reaping the benefits of that. And I mean, honestly, like, legitimately good for her. She came into this. I think somebody mentioned Nikki was the last Star Wars person that was drafted, and she was the only Star Wars competitor that's played this year that was drafted off screen. She was drafted once they stopped the stream. And I think it says a lot that she's come in, she's gone 4-0. She played more, but she has a better record than who was supposed to be the Star Wars player of the suspects in Marie Wilson. And she's completely shown up the league. I mean, she really was just this outside force that's come in. It kind of reminds me of last year with Ace, where like Ace came in and it's like, oh, what, that one dude who played a teams match 6 years ago and then bombed against Parker, this guy's going to be the Star Wars guy. And he fucking killed them. And he continued to play well this year. His one bad match was a title match, and that's just unfortunate luck. So Demolanta has played.
I don't think it was
against Damon last year.
That was okay, last year. Okay, I thought it was this season that you're talking about. Okay.
No. My bad. I just mean in general. He's only played one bad match. It just happened to be that one. So
yeah.
But yeah, no. I think obviously Harper's been on fire, but if there's a person second to Harper who's been on fire this year, it is a Demolanta. If you want to say it's Andrew or Nikki, the other one's third. So I'm very curious to see, she's taken out Alex, who was the long-term holder of this, and now she's taken out Gold Leader, who many people saw as the heir apparent, especially if you're a Finstock Exchange fanboy. So now all that's left is to take out Harper. Whether or not she can, I think that is a legitimate bit of a coin toss, but she's at least fresher than him. She's played more recently.
Yeah, and honestly, there was a I keep forgetting his name, but the guy who does the caption, this pictures on the Facebook group, he took a picture. He used the picture of Andrew and Nikki together.
Is that Caro who does that?
Yeah. What
was it? Was it Caro? Jonathan Caro? Or am I thinking of somebody different?
I think it's somebody different. But anyway, I will say that I made the caption of when I win the Star Wars belt, we're gonna wear this as couples underwear, and Andrew's like, oh, I can just see that happening in that household, because I just feel that while Alex and Molly have been kind of at odds with each other, it feels like Andrew and Nikki are doing this together as a couple, and honestly, I couldn't ask for a better two people who are champion, who could potentially be champion. Obviously, Nikki is a potential champion, but if she is a champion, two champions helping each other out in the same division as husband and wife, I couldn't think of anything better for this division, especially this.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of them, like, here's what I'll say. Unless there's a reason that I'm just not aware of that he didn't play, I don't think it's a coincidence that Demolanta didn't go into this tournament, because not only does it obviously his faction mate Eric Whiteley got another chance to play, and again played very well and just got unlucky in that match.
Yeah.
But it gave his wife a chance to shine, because I think kind of like how there was that Damon versus Damon thing with that first match where it was that ounce of competitiveness. I really think that it was a smart decision for him to step out, because now the light is on Nikki. And even though Andrew's in the back of everybody's minds, and I'm sure he'll be back next year, this gives her a chance, win or lose in this final, to have a real chance to shine and make her own name without having to be associated to him. Because I do think, unfairly so, that has kind of happened to Molly a little bit, especially because she's never really gotten a win streak or anything that can propel her separated. It's just always like, yeah, Molly and Alex Damon, they're the couple. Whereas I think Nikki is almost making her own name away from him, which is a good thing, because she's an excellent competitor and deserves to not be just lumped in as this guy's wife.
Yeah, I love this. We're going to bring up Dagan's last comment, but this is a really interesting comment from Dagan. It'd be cool to see if we got a Star Wars teams exhibition match at some point with the Damons facing the Demolantes. I think we asked that same question with Andrew when he was on here, and he said that match will never end because it'd just be two couples just facing off each other. But Jay had pitched the idea of a master and apprentice, where someone who is very knowledgeable of Star Wars and someone who isn't very or is not as knowledgeable as the division demands. So he liked that idea of it. But I mean, it'd be interesting. I think it'll drive a lot of people to that exhibition match for obvious reasons. But I don't know. I think Andrew's all right on the money. I think that match will not end. I think that'll be like a 3-hour match on its own. But let me look at Dagan's last comment. It's pretty insane that we had two rookies face off in the Star Wars tournament finals, with the winner facing a rookie for the Belt Spectacular. Now, interestingly enough, this year is the first year we have had a rookie be a Star Wars champion, period. Even when Star Wars was, when the first Star Wars belt was created at the Fatal Five-Way in Orlando, or after that event, I should say, none of them were rookies. The only rookie that was there was Jenny Nicholson, and she didn't perform as well. I mean, John Campia wasn't a rookie. Jeremy Johns, I don't think was a rookie. Sam Whitwer wasn't a rookie, and Ken Knapsack wasn't a rookie.
Johns' Inner Geekdom title was before the Star Wars, I believe. Even then, his title drive was before it. So.
Yeah, but anyway, point is that we've never had a rookie in this rookie champion in the Star Wars division this year. So it's pretty insane. It's number one, it's also due to the writers as well, but it's also that the new rookies are just insanely great at the Star Wars knowledge, and even they're stumbling on some of the more minute details. Even Alex was like, gee, it's nice that I know the fantasy elements. Now I got to find out the real world aspect of it. So it is nice to see that these questions are getting a lot harder and more difficult for competitors, because that just makes us more invested and seeing the competition part of it. So thank you, Dagan, for making that comment for that transition. But let's move on to something interesting that was posed in this pay-per-view match. John Roca had crashed or had continuously crashed Christian's interview and saying, I want my match at Spectacular, partner me up with someone, blah, 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 blah. You know how Roca talks. So obviously at this point, it's going to happen at Spectacular. We're going to face, Roca's going to have his last ride with someone. The question is who is it going to be? Now, Aaron, who do you think is going to face John Roca?
Oh man, that's a bit of a loaded question, isn't it? Because there are so many avenues I think you could take this. It all depends on what. Obviously, it's Roca, and we know that Christian wants to put more focus onto the story in season. We're in season 8, so next season is season 9. Yeah. I know math. So I think it's definitely going to be a story angle. It's just which one do you do? Personally, for me, if I were to put like one ultimate pick out there, and I don't think this will ever happen because I don't think the person I'm about to mention has any fucking interest in it, I would say Snyder. not only do these two have a storied history together, but they've both publicly said they're stepping away after this season. Snyder's basically checked out already. And that's why I say I don't think he'd do it, is because I just don't think he has the interest anymore. Once Mark left, that was kind of it for him, unfortunately. But that's probably the number one pick, because the idea of two guys going out, only one gets to go out on top, and they're two guys with as much history as these two have, that is the story beat for the Schmoedown.
I like your pick. I think that's like the clear, obvious one. But interestingly enough, Jeff Snyder is on the Stars. If obviously in the season he's on the Stars. So if that happens, the Stars will be represented at Spectacular.
True.
But I have a different star in mind. And it's Chris Jericho, because we haven't seen him all season long. And if you think about it, let's see what the Rock.
I see where you're heading.
Yeah, but here's the roster for Spectacular as of right now. We got Thomas Harper versus Nikki Del Rio. That's the Den and the Usual Suspects represented. Yep. We have Mike Kalinowski versus Robert Parker. That's Corruption and the Dungeon. With the possibility of Chandru. I think that there's going to be a triple threat either in the Star Wars, in the IG or singles division. So Chandru is theoretically could be possibly a three-way match in that. I think that would be, and it's a live event, so I think that would blow everybody's mind.
And either way, that's swag there as well.
That's swag there as well. So that's five? That's five different
of them,
managers. Next up, we have Shazam versus the teams between either King Khan or whoever.
Press room.
So we know that the Quirky Mercs are going to be represented. John Roca is going to be there, so that's 7 managers represented at Spectacular. If you put Chris Jericho in there, that's all 8 managers represented at Spectacular, and I couldn't think of a better way to end season 8 going into season 9 by having Chris Jericho there. And of course, you know, Roca's a wrestling fan. How cool would it be for him to stare down at Chris Jericho? I mean, that would, and obviously playing his music, Chris Jericho's music at Spectacular, I think people would lose their mind. But that's my pick. But Leo Logan has something. Let me get my mouse.
He is raining on your parade.
I know.
While you bring that up, I do want to say, while I've said on this show before, I've spoken down about Jericho and the Schmoedown, I absolutely see your point, and I do think it's an interesting idea, because who better than to give him a literal rock star to go out with? And also, if you play him against Jericho, you're probably guaranteeing Roca a final win. So I do see the appeal in that too.
Yeah, but Leo Logan does put out that Jericho's tour with his band in the UK by the time of Spectacular doesn't mean that he couldn't be recorded. Just saying. But again, it's just my theory. I don't know if it will happen, but Logan does make a great comment. So hopefully, maybe I'm wrong, but I probably am. I like Brian's answer. The correct answer for Roca's match is Mance, and end the trilogy there. That's an interesting. I like that. I like that pick. I really do like that pick. We haven't seen Scott Manson forever, but hey, you know what? Who knows? I think it's gonna. I really do think it's gonna be someone that's in the league, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mance just comes up and just says, "Hi, everybody. Let's spin movie release dates and screw Roca again." I could see that. I would love to see that.
I was gonna say that, or the other thing I thought of is, like, if they go somewhere out of league, I would love to see them bring Nost in, just go back to the OG and have Nost play him. Because again, that would most likely give Roca a win, because even Nost has admitted Roca was the better player. But it would be a fun thing to see him go out with his friend, someone who is, actually his friend.
You know what? I like all these comments, but I like all these suggestions. So we don't really know who's going to win, but I think we can, without a doubt, say that it's going to be Roca's last ride, and he's going to sail out into the sunset. I think it's going to be a great match regardless. Spectacular is looking to be great. But next up, we are going to do, and of course I don't have Oh, screw it. We're just gonna do we're just gonna not have any banners. We're gonna go straight into Double D's sexy numbers. Now, about a month ago, I did a gambling type segment where I opened up Double D's Schmoedown online betting, and the G is kind of crooked like there. So, but anyway, so Aaron, you weren't here last time, but let me kind of, I'll give you a review of it, but I do have to say something right off the top of the bat. The odds that I had stated before are not the odds that you would encounter in the real world. So I want to say that up front, but considering that this is just a thought experiment and it's not really a gambling per se thing, we're going to, and for consistency purposes, we're going to use my numbers just for that reason. Right. So to kind of review what I had, what the odds mean. Yeah, okay, there we go. Here's how you read the odds. So we have two players with two odds. Player one is at plus 25. Player two is at negative 500. Now, Aaron, you've dabbled in some form of gambling, so a little bit. So, with your prior experience, who are you going to put $100 on, based on these odds?
I mean, on these odds, I'm putting it on player two because if they win, that's bank.
Does it? I mean, okay, well, so
unless I'm confused betting, but
yeah. So okay, so if you bet, so with player one, if you put $100 on player one and they win, the payout is $125, where it's $100, your initial $100 bet plus your individual earnings of $25. Mm-hmm. Whereas player two, if you took that same $100, the payout is $120, and that's your initial $100 bet and $20. Now you're smart to put your money on player two because I have made the odds to be where the negative number and the high number is usually the one that's going to win. That's how I set the odds a bit. So usually, general rule of thumb is you're looking for the negative number with the higher number. That's the general rule of thumb. So odds are player two is going to win, but I want to encourage people to go with player one because it pays out more, theoretically. But obviously, I've done my homework. I've looked at other statistics, and I'm banking on player two is going to win. So last time we looked at this, I was actually losing money in this bet, so in this adventure. With the Star Wars division, I lost $929. The teams division, I made money. I made $940. The singles division, I made $286. And IG, I lost a whopping $1,000, which is a loss of $1,275. Do you think you trust my figures, or do you think that it's just a short-term loss? What do you think?
I think you need a loan badly.
Well, you know what? That's the thing about gambling is that in the short term, you are going to lose money because these 4 divisions are just based off of 4 matches. We had maybe 15 matches to go. So eventually in the long run, you are going to earn money in that sense. So let's look at the results of everything. So in the singles division, I made money. We'll break down each individual competitor. So Dan Murrow was facing Lon Harris. So I had Dan Murrow at negative 800 because I'm shrinking down the payment as much as possible because 63 people bet on Dan Murrow and 4 people bet on Lon Harris. So not a lot of people bet on Lon. So I paid out almost $7,100 to the winners. That's a loss of $400, almost $400. William Bibiani was at negative 700 with 41 people betting on him. And that was the original 286 loss that we had discussed previously. So we're not going to go into too much of that. He was facing up against Ty Lieberman, and not a lot of people were betting on him. No. Janine, obviously for this week, I had Mike winning this match, but I had Janine at plus 75, which means you'll earn, the payout was $175 for each winner. And 14 people bet on Janine, 11 people bet on Mike, and I made $50. So it was just slightly small profit margin. But had Mike won, I would have earned $1,000 from Mike. Griffey Nooms versus Josh Horowitz. I had their odds pretty much the same. I think Josh was at -200 and Griffey Newman's was at -250. 21 people bet on Griffey Nooms. I think it was about 11 people bet on Josh. So I actually ended up making money. I made $660. Brendan Meyer, I was facing up against Adam Collins. Since Adam Collins had been in the singles tournament before, he ran through it. I had him at -600. Brendan Meyer was at -350. A lot of people bet more on Adam Collins, but 17 people bet on Brendan Meyer, and I made $514. At this point, I'm actually in profit. David Del Rio was at -250. He was facing off against James White, who I had, I think, at plus 75. And ultimately, David Del Rio was the person that people bet on the most. And I ended up losing $60. But $60 is not bad. Marisol McKee, title match against Chance Ellison. I had her at -500. 93 people bet on Marisol. 71 people bet on Chance. And I made almost $6,000 just from that title match. So anytime you see a movie where a gambler is paying off the guy to take a dive or something, it's for this reason. Usually the title matches are worth a lot more. And finally, Barbarian was facing up against Paul Oyama.
Yes.
Barbarian was at +50. 3 people bet on Barbarian. The majority of people betted on Paul. So I made bank at that. I made almost $2,500, which gives us a grand total of almost $9,000 profit. Pretty good, right?
Yeah, I'd take that any day.
Yeah. So let's go on to the teams tournament. So obviously it's sole profit, not as big of a profit, but since that we haven't had a lot of teams matches, there's not much room for profit in this one. So we had the title match between Shazam and Lightning Time. I did have Shazam winning this match. Their odds were -750. 56 people bet on Shazam. 6 people bet on Lightning Time, and I only lost less than $150. So it's, for considering the loss was that small, it's not that bad. Untouchables versus Danger Zone. I did have Danger Zone winning that match at negative, with their odds at -600. 15 people bet on Danger Zone. 7 people bet on Untouchables, and I ended up making money. I made $450. So I already ate my loss right there. King Arthur and Final Exam. A lot of people, even though at the time I did have Final Exam at higher odds, in my brackets I did have King Arthur winning this match. For some reason, I changed my mind in mid when I made my brackets, but I did have Final Exam winning this match. 13 people felt the same way. 9 people bet on King Arthur, and King Arthur won, and I still made money. I made almost $1,000. That was the match that I made money on previously.
Yeah, this major profit.
Yeah, this major profit from last time. So next up, we had the Press Room versus the Old Guard. I did suspect that the Press Room was going to win this match. I just didn't have any confidence with Mark Riley or Alonzo. I mean, I think their time is up, and a lot of people felt the same way. 3 people bet on the Old Guard. 6 people bet on the Press Room, and once again, I made $60 on that. So it's not really that much of a loss, not really that much of a profit, but still, it's something is better than nothing. And finally, we have Deception versus Chaos Theory. A lot more people bet on Deception winning that match because they had 13 people bet on Deception. 1 person bet on Chaos Theory. And obviously, I lost money, but at this point, I was making money, so it didn't matter who had won at that point. So I made almost over $1,000 in this division. So as you can see, I'm rolling in the money at this point. So my proof of concept is proving right. What do you think is the IG result? Since there were only 2 matches that I put bets on.
Huh. I probably IG is probably the one where you lost the most money. I mean, the one match alone lost you $1,000,
Yep.
and I feel like a second one would not make that up.
Oh, well, you're absolutely right. IG, I did have a loss, but interestingly enough about this division, there were 4 different scenarios that this could have resulted. 3 of those 4 scenarios, I would have made money. There was only one specific scenario that I would have lost money, and it happened. So I lost $667. But had Armu won that match, and he was set up to win that match, he just had a bad final round.
Yep.
I would have made money. I would have, because Mike, 72 people bet on Mike, only 14 people bet on Armu. And had Armu would have won, I would have made a lot of money in this one. So
that's
unfortunately,
a lot of profit.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? If I knew this was going to happen, and because I saw all the different scenarios, I knew that I was banking on that there was a more possibility of me making a profit. But if we had to, it's not that much of a loss. In fact, I went from 1,000, like you said, to 600, less than 700 loss. So it's still a good thing. I still recouped some of my loss. And finally, we're going to go into the Star Wars division, where I lost. I lost almost $1,000 there too. What do you think is going to be the result of that?
I'm gonna go positive. I'm gonna say there's profits.
Well, you're right again, because but interestingly enough, now I will say this: when I made that post about all the gambling odds, I made bets on Laura Kelly, Eric Whiteley, Molly Damon, Alex Damon, Joseph Scrimshaw, goal leader, and Nikki Demolanta. But Nikki had already won her match and was going into round 2. So I had to kind of cheat a little bit, but let's assume that the people who did win with Laura Kelly, Alex, and gold leader, let's say all of them put all their made the same amount of bets, same amount of people, and kept everything the same, what would have happened? Because had I not done that, I would have lost money, because Laura Kelly lost me that $920.
Yep.
Alex lost me $30, and 63 people bet on Alex. 6 people bet on Molly. So there was really no way for me to win unless I upped the odds. And Alex Damon was at negative 1,000. And this was at a time when Alex was like, you don't mess with Alex Damon. So,
yep.
So obviously losing only $30 to Alex because of Alex, not a bad day, given what I had to work with. And gold leader, with his win, I actually made money because just as many people, almost only 8 more people bet on gold leader than Joseph Scrimshaw, but it was still high enough where I made money. And I knew that I was going to make a loss out of round 1, but had we continued with round 2 and it was the same amount of people and everything, I would have ended up with almost $7,000 in profit. So that's actually, so to summarize, with the grand total, my profit margin was $16,000 based on my math, based on the rules that I stated. And according to what I have read, and again, I probably misinterpret this, but based on what I read, based on what I interpreted, if you're making anywhere between 8 and 10% of what the total bets were, you're making good money. You're making, that's really good. And as you can see with singles, I made 21% of what the bets were. Teams, I made about a little over 8%. Obviously, IG, I lost negative 500, negative 5%. Star Wars, I made 22%, and the total profit margin percent was 16% in total. So the fact that I'm doubling what what the math was saying, I'm doing actually pretty good, and I like my rules. But that is the results. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to like take the Schmoedown and break it down in this really interesting, unique angle. Your math sounds right, because at the end of the day, profits are profits, and even if you're not, you'd rather consistently make small profits than make some big gangbuster profit. But hey, if you were taking these real odds to Vegas and you walked away with 16 grand, you'd be smiling like nobody's business. So
Yeah. So, and considering that this was all in a month's time, $16,000 a month, not a bad day. And honestly, if we were to continue with the teams, the tournament finals and spectacular, that's big money because obviously the title matches are where the most people are more likely to gamble. But that will conclude my sexy numbers. Roxy, like I said, I gave Roxy Stryer the day off because I think she deserves to celebrate her win against Mike win against Mike Kalinowski. That should have been the storyline from the start. So yeah, that would conclude my sexy numbers bet. And actually, Dagan also said a nice thing that I liked. Mark Riley could be a opponent in that. That's also true. I like that idea as well, Dagan. So that's
him, Riley, and Dan.
Yeah. The rematch, the triple threat rematch. But that wouldn't make much sense if Dan Murrow is also going to be in the
title match.
Yeah. So I don't know if that will go that far, but if Dan Murrow loses the singles tournament, it's possible. I mean, that would be I'd love to see that. So that will conclude, like I said, that will conclude my sexy numbers. And we're going to move on to hard questions. And this hard questions is where we take a topic and we're not debating. We're just kind of throwing it out there and we're just kind of listening and discussing it. And Mike Kalinowski posed an interesting topic at the end of his match against Janine. Should we eliminate opponents in Spinner's Choice next season? So how we're going to do this is, should we eliminate it? Yes or no, right off the bat. What do you think? What's your opinion? Do you want to see it gone or should we keep it?
I think we keep it because it makes the game element much more interesting.
Yeah, I'm also in vote for keeping it because it does equalize the game a bit. As we saw in Mike's match against Janine, Mike was in the lead. It was a 1 point lead, but he was leading. And generally, if you do grow your lead, you're more likely to win. And had he got a different category, he probably, if he did really well, he most likely would have won. But I don't like to just say, yes, let's just keep it and just call it a day. Let's mix it up a little bit. If we had to change it, if we had to eliminate it, what do we replace it with to keep it, to have that same pitfall of that equalizing factor? What do we replace it with, Aaron?
I would say, so if we're replacing opponent's choice, I think it would be interesting because the competitors, when they're building the wheel, depending on what league you're in, you're allowed to put either a strength on it or 2 strengths on it, I believe, depending on what division you're a part of. I would say if we're taking out spinners and opponents, since that opens up 2 more slices on the wheel, maybe allow competitors to also preemptively pick a category that you are putting on there as a weakness for your opponent. So in the studying and strategizing of an opponent, someone can purposely put something on the wheel that they think you'll be bad at. And so now there's the mathematical odds of if they get it, that is a category that could sink them, similar as to how Kalinowski did classics. We already see people kind of do it with their strengths, especially because in singles you get 2, I believe. So they kind of tend to do that at times already. But I think actually having that be an implemented thing of you can pick a strength or 2 strengths or whatever, and then now you have a spot on the wheel to put something you think will sink your opponent, makes it interesting without always having that element of, oh, this is the thing that ends the game.
See, I'm of 2 minds. I have 2 things that I could replace it with. Number one, we don't eliminate opponents in Spinner's Choice, but we make opponent's choice and Spinner's Choice on 1 slice. We basically cut the slice in half, and 1 slice. It's kind of like how in Wheel of Fortune there's the bankrupt on 2 sides, and then there's like the $1 million one or whatever. Yeah, I think that'd be a great way because number one, you're reducing the frequency of it happening, of it landing on. And I want to kind of show this real quick on the
digital will need to
statistics
time out.
of how often it appears, and it's just this season. So let me enlarge it a little bit. Go up a bit. Okay. So ideally, there's 12 slices on the wheel. So mathematically speaking, getting opponents or spinner's choice should be about 8% of the time. And that's if you're going first. If you're going second, there's obviously 11 slices that you can land on. So that obviously increases your likelihood of landing on either slice to 9%. So it's a little bit of it, but still low. Overall, with spinner's choice, it's 9%, so it's right in there. But with opponent's choice, it's 16. It's 16%. Singles, it's 17%. Team, and this is all opponent's choice, by the way. Teams, it's 21%. IG, it's 16%. Only Star Wars is 7%. And in my opinion, if we're going to eliminate opponent's choice straight out, this is the division to eliminate, because it's really just like, these are Star Wars experts. They know their Star Wars. They're not gonna miss 2 points. As they're not gonna miss a huge margin of points.
Right.
And with spinner's choice in singles, it's 7% of the time. Teams, it's 13% of the time. Inner Geekdom, it's 6% of the time, and Star Wars, it's 13% of the time. So we are seeing, it's not an illusion. We are seeing this. We do see it a lot. It's not an illusion. We are seeing it a lot, or a lot more than we should be seeing it. So my second thing of doing is, number one, we do get rid of it, but in Monopoly, there are slices, or there are spaces on Monopoly where it's called community chess and chance, and you don't know what you're going to get. You can get something good, or you can get something bad. So why don't we just have 2 chance slices where they can be as equally good or equally bad? And that could really determine, that could be the equalizer, that could be the advantage. And I think that would be an interesting match, because that could be interesting for the game overall, because you have the option of spinning away from it. I think that's part of the reason why opponent's choice is so high, because you're not allowed to spin away from it. So with this chance category or chance slice that I'm proposing, you have that option of spinning away from it. And if you land it on your second choice, then you take it. And only the announcers know which category it is. And once you land on it, it gets taken away. So there's only, instead of 2 chance slices, you're left with 1. So that kind of makes it a little bit more fair for everybody involved. I think that would be an interesting concept. What do you think, Aaron?
No, I love that idea. Yeah. So I was going to say, to compare it to something, because I have a little bit of knowledge about this. Obviously, a lot of people are very aware of the fan leagues, and this information may be a little outdated, but I know at least for the longest time, if not still being used, one of the bigger of the fan leagues, Full Metal, which is where people like Chance, Robert Parker, Paul Oyama, Kevin Smets all played and then went into the Schmoedown. In one of their styles of trivia, they have a category that's exactly like that, where I think at one point it was called like Writer's Choice, where it's literally the writer writes a random category and slips it in there. And if that's what it lands on, no one knows what it is. You just have to deal with it. And I think it makes for a really intriguing element to the game that is different than what we've seen before. So that's actually a really good shout of an evolution of, it's something that I've seen in like a beta version. So to see it tested on a bigger stage and how that goes would be rather interesting.
Yeah, and you know what? I do like my idea. When I was writing this out, it's like, ooh, this would be a great idea. So I like it. In fact, I was asking my mom about a different analogy, because she's a big Wheel of Fortune fan. It's like, what was that mystery peg? Is it bankrupt and $1,000? Yeah, it's $10,000. Like, oh, okay. So, but I'm like, I like my Monopoly analogy. I think that makes a little bit more sense, because you don't know what you're going to get. It could be something good, it could be something bad. But obviously, Christian has final say. I think that overall, I think opponent's choice and spinner's choice are here to stay. I don't think Christian's going to do away with it, unfortunately. But hey, if he watches this, which I know he does occasionally, it's an option for him to explore, and maybe he'll test that out in the FCL, and we'll maybe get them Schmoedown. So, but yeah, would you say? would you say mixed bag slice on the wheel would be like opponent's choice? Um, I think it's worse than opponent's choice because it could be anything. It literally could be anything, and it could be from any different genre. It could be 70s movies, then it could be IG, and then it could be fantasy sci-fi, and then time travel dystopian future. So it could literally be anything. Opponent, if you land on opponent's choice, it at least has the option of giving you
Right.
a specific category like 70s movies or IG or other categories similar to it that are on the board.
In IG and Star Wars, I don't know how effective that move would be to the game, only because both of those leagues, obviously Star Wars much smaller, but effectively it is a set number of films that has a definitive beginning and end that you can study. So mixed bag, you can do your best to hit everything that might fall into it. In singles and teams, though, if one day they just up and decided, yeah, instead of spinner's choice, we're just going to, an opponent choice, we're just going to have 2 permanent mixed bag fixtures on the wheel, that is that is a bigger death sentence than getting opponent's choice, because at least with opponent's choice, obviously I think probably the most famous one still today is a top 10 versus top fat. There is a chance of a strategical error of just your opponent not knowing you well enough and them giving you a strength. Sometimes it works, like with this Janine Mike match, and sometimes it really doesn't. Whereas mixed bag is so random, it is almost worse, which if that's what they want, that is an answer.
And interestingly enough, Thomas Harper got mixed bag in 2 of his Star Wars matches. He ran through them. So obviously that's a very specific division, but
Right.
I mean, he's that good. So for him to get mixed bag and go through it just shows you how strong he is. So it would be opponent's choice in other divisions, but obviously Star Wars not as much. But thank you, Taco, for the comment. And we're going to wrap up the show with one final segment. Is we got a few matches coming up next week, and we're just going to see, hey, who we think is going to win really quickly. First up, we got Paige Forbetti versus Griffey Newman. I've said this before. I like Paige. I think she's great. She's going to give Griffey Newman a fight, but I think Griffey Newman is going to win this match.
Absolutely. I think Jay is going to slaughter us because she's obviously a friend of the show, and the one time he's not here is when this comes up. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Paige has played really well, and I think we've seen improvement in her play just throughout the season. But Newman has it down to such a level that he has figured out how to master the character part with the trivia part, and that alone can really throw off somebody. And I feel like part of Paige's character is to like be really intense and really into it. And I think that could almost play against her with someone like Griffin, who is very relaxed, almost to a point of it's hard to describe, but I think you'll get what I mean, where they're so conflicted that if the character stuff comes into it too much, it might play into somebody's head a bit more. But yeah, he's looked stronger as a player, and I think he has that edge when it comes to how they're approaching this.
All right. So, and interestingly enough, I was kind of wrong earlier. Apparently, King Arthur and Press Room are facing in a pay-per-view this week. So, just a reminder. So, I was wrong earlier. But since we're on that right now, hi, Suge Knight. How you doing? I know I'm kind of filling in for Jay and Frenchie, so I didn't read your comment. I didn't know it was you earlier. But since we did talk about that, they're going to be on the pay-per-view on Friday night's match. So let's just transition to them. Personally, I think King Arthur is going to win. I think they've, as you said before, that they're still a new team and they're still figuring out their dynamic. I think they have figured that out in the second match, because in their first match they were it seemed like Griffey Newman was really like going straight for the answer, and he was just not listening to King Khan. I think in the second match, they were much, much better, like light years from where their first match was. They took their time. They were calmer. They listened to each other. And I feel like they're strong as individuals, but as a team, I think that's strong. So I think King Arthur is going to win this one.
I am going to personally give the edge to Press Room. Again, we did talk about it earlier, and I said then that for me, it's a matter of, I think Horowitz is playing really, really well. Again, he's only had one match that he just really fell flat on. But that was also his first time playing in a live environment. And even though he is an interviewer and a press person, performing and doing an interview in front of people are two very different things. So I could see maybe mentally where that would get to him. I don't think that was a coincidence. But I just think naturally him and Perry have better chemistry, which I think gives them the edge. But out of any of these matches this week, if King Arthur take it, I'll be the least shocked.
All right.
So
next, so on Thursday's match, we got Brendan Meyer versus Barbarian. I interestingly had Paul Yama winning the match between him and Barbarian, so I did not expect Barbarian to be in round 3.
Yeah.
But honestly, I gotta go. I think in either case, if Paul Yama was still to be in this match, I think Brendan Meyer is going to win this one. I think he's just much stronger than. I think he's shown that he's improved from what he was last season. So I feel like he's on a run, and I just feel like very confident with Brendan Meyer for this one.
Yeah, God, as much as I love Craig, because I do love him, I'm gonna agree with you. I think Brendan, in terms of his play, I think Brendan is the most stepped up it's ever been. And the fact that he comes into this match in between a title match where they played really well and they're building for another title match, which I know this defense means a lot to them. I just think there's no part of his mind that's like slowing down in any kind of way. And I think that'll help propel him with momentum.
You know what? We'll see what happens. So last up, we got Dan Murrow versus Janine the Machine. I got to tell you, Janine, it's an understatement how good Janine has been playing this season. I mean, it's complete. I mean, even when I had her against Marisol, I did say that Marisol was going to win, but honestly, watching that match, Janine could have won that match. But I got to say, Dan Murrow is the GOAT for a reason. So I would love to see Janine keep winning, but I think Dan Murrow is going to take this one. What do you think, Aaron?
Dan Murrow is such a good singles player. He's won more matches than most competitors in this division have played, and that says it all. It like with pretty much all of Dan's singles matches, I don't think, or at least his like regular singles matches, the very few that he's lost, I don't think it's going to be on Janine. I'm sure she'll play very well as she has this year, but it's going to take a actual major fuck up from Dan, even something more than what happened in the teams match that he puts on himself. It's going to take something big for Janine to overpower that, even at her best. So I would say Murrow.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what the results will be at the end on Friday. So, guys, thank you for tuning in to our show. I know you love seeing Jay and Frenchie bicker back and forth, but I'm so happy that you actually chose me to watch me today. And I'd like to thank Aaron for joining me, so I'm not alone on this show today. Thank you, Aaron, for joining me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always a lot of fun to be here, no matter who shows up. And shout out to you for keeping the ship going while the others are away.
All right.
I know it's not fun trying to produce and do this.
No, it wasn't challenging the first time I did it, because even though I knew where everything was, it was kind of hard, to keep my mind set, okay, do this. But at least when I can have you, when you're talking, I can at least do that while you're keeping the show flow. So it at least seems like the show is flowing really nicely. So I thank you for doing that. It definitely helped me a lot being producer and host at the same time. But guys, that will do it for us today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. I think we're very close to 400 subscribers in less than a year. I mean, I can't believe we're that high this soon. So keep on doing the good work. Share this video. And if you have some time later on, go on Schmoedown North. I think that they're doing a Mount Schmoedown episode today. I didn't know they usually do that today after our show. So do give them some love as well. But that will conclude for us, and tune in next week where Jay and Frenchie will return. Until then, bye-bye.
You want to hear something funny? The mic wasn't on that whole time.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, wow.
So smooth.